Yeah, what's good, Joe? It's your man, the Bigga P, and I'm here to convey my thoughts about the Bradley Marquez pay-per-view card from last night. Overall, I thought it was entertaining for what it was for the four fights. Um, because it's a rarity these days to get a boxing pay-per-view without either Manny or Floyd, being the big selling point, of the whole thing. And usually with those things, I like to pay close attention. I also like to support them. So yes, I did end up buying it. And lucky for me, I was entertained, even though three of the four fights were what I call mismatches. All right, well, let's go to the first one. I think it was Monahan versus Smith. Decent enough opener. It was what it was. It was an opener to warm up the crowd. Although um, I think the ref let that go a little bit too long. The beating a little bit too long. But overall, yes, it was a nice. It was short. It wasn't any struggle in it, and that's all I really want in an opener. I mean, I'm not gonna expect the fight of the year candidate in an opener, but like it was what it was. It was entertaining. It was short. It was brutal. Late ref stoppage, but hey, I'm not gonna complain. The next fight was Lomachenko versus Ramirez. Now, this fight was wild to me because Lomachenko, although I know he did the World Series of Boxing thing, where it's basically 5 rounds, no headgear. That's basically pro right there. But he hadn't been officially pro. So when I heard this fight was being like when this fight was going to be on the card and it was going to be a 10 rounder, I'm like, 10 rounds for a debuting amateur. And on top of that, it wasn't like he was being put in like, with a guy who was a scrub. Ramirez is not a scrub. Ramirez is one as a tough journeyman who had never been stopped. Um, and he had some pop too with his power. So it was like this was gonna be interesting to me, see how Lomachenko would handle this, and he passed this test with flying colors. What I like about Lomachenko is he was very fluid. It was actually my first one. I mean, I've seen him in pictures and stuff like that, but I'd never seen him actually fight. And he was very fluid. I was really impressed. He threw combinations. He was throwing 5 punch combinations, and he also really worked the body. He almost got a first round knockout because he landed a good body head combination. And he pretty much, Ramirez was trying to make a fight out of it, which was good because I think Lomachenko would be more than happy to stand outside and box. So Ramirez was rushing in, not really, no defense, trying to see if he can actually knock him out. And of course, he was getting caught, and I think Lomachenko managed to end things in the fourth round with a mean hook to the body that had Ramirez rolling around in the ring like he's trying to put out a fire or something. Um, but I was impressed, and because, like I said, Ramirez had never been stopped either. So to see that happen, I'm like, yeah, this guy may pan out. Now I'm just interested in what his career trajectory is actually going to be because I know they talk about facing Salido next. I'm like, yes, I know he's well established, but I don't even think Rigo even went through this type of. I mean, Rigo even had at least a couple like 5 or 6 easy ones before he started throwing him to the wolves. But hey, I will be definitely keeping my eye on Lomachenko and see how far he progresses. Next fight would be the co-main event, Orlando Salido versus Orlando Cruz. Now I was not a fan of fight when it was announced for a couple of reasons. Um, mostly it's because of Orlando Cruz. Now Orlando Cruz, because I mean in everything, the gays are very political and very powerful, um, organization, and if anyone of note, being there it could be politicians, entertainers, athletes, whatever, um, anyone that identifies as one of their own. they get they get the whole hoopla and everything behind them. So when Orlando Cruz came out, was it last year or so? I mean, this was literally me. Why? Because it's gonna bring the attention into boxing that I necessarily am not. I'm not saying necessarily. I'm not a fan of. Why do I say this? Keep in mind, I'm not a homophobe in any sense of the word. But my thing is, yes, if you're gonna come out, yes, come out, but then continue to be about your business. And I truly didn't think Orlando Cruz was about his business. It was more about furthering the gay agenda more than him actually fighting or anything like that. Because this is pretty much like Jason Khan's situation, except Orlando Cruz is far more talented in his sport than Jason Collins was. Um, but there's a reason why Cruz wasn't talked about prior to him coming out of the closet. Because he's really, I mean, at best he's a mid-level, he's a mid-level fighter. He's okay. He's not good. He's not that good. You know, tough guy. He's fast. Good counterpuncher, but his talent. He's not a high level talent. Never thought he was a high level talent. And he's been a pro since he came out of the Olympics in 2000. And I know who he was because I watched a couple of fights before he came out of the closet, especially the fight where I saw Ponce de Leon body him in about 3 rounds. And so pretty much so pretty much that's why he was in obscurity. Never mind what he was talking about. Oh no, he was tormented about coming out. No, he wasn't really anything. He wasn't anything spectacular. So when he came out of the closet, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's see if he's gonna be about his business or not. And I mean, they gave him. He had like 4 fights. I mean, they were setups. They were good. They were good victories, I guess, going forward. But but the level of skill to go from those fighters to someone like Orlando Salido was a big jump. And I truly feel that he got the shot because of him being gay publicly. Because I could think of probably a lot better featherweights that could have been in the ring with Salido that night. It could have been had a more interesting, fight. But yeah, I just didn't feel that Cruz. I feel like Cruz actually just was more about the agenda than actually his actual fighting, and that's what made me angry about this fight. And so I was hoping that he would, hoping there wasn't gonna be any fuckery on the cards, and I was hoping that, he would prove me wrong, and he didn't, because literally he had nothing for Salido. Salido was a lot bigger than he was. Cruz, at the most, I'd probably give him 1 round. I forgot, it was either the 4th or the 5th round. But yeah, he had nothing. He didn't show good defense. He showed good speed. I mean, he was going in and out. But when Salido started working his body and the head, he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing for him. And offensively, Salido was walking him down. And it was only a matter of time. And then Salido dropped the bomb on him in round 7. He couldn't recover from. Like I said, my hat's off to Salido. But, so I know Salido. I'm thinking like he didn't want to be part of any circus, and he just wanted to do his thing, and I know that was probably weighing on his mind that what if Cruz actually beats me? Then he'd be unfairly exposed to a lot of criticism and jeers from his fellow Mexicans, because I know how they get down over there with stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, it was a mismatch. It was a mismatch from the start, and I knew it was going to be a mismatch because Cruz had nothing for him. And I'll give Cruz props for one thing because he took a lot of punishment from Salido before actually going down. Because I expected him to actually hit the canvas at some point in the fight, way earlier than he did. Um, I'll give him that. But like I said, Cruz. But as far as but other than that, like I said, it was disappointing because I would think that Cruz would have had a more solid game plan or whatever than just moving in and out against someone like Orlando Salido. And he fought like he basically didn't train hard enough for it. Um, so, well, yes, Orlando's is the first actively gay boxer, professional boxer currently, but at least the first active gay champion. They'll have to wait a while. uh, Cruz probably needs to go back to the drawing board. He's still serviceable, but he's gonna have to really step up. He's gonna have to really step it up and face better competition, and before he actually gets another shot at title, hopefully, and not just get a title because he just happens to be the only known gay boxer to date, known actively gay boxer to date. Um, as for Salido, I'm happy like he's champion again. I wish we could see a rematch between him and Mikey Garcia, but who knows? That'll probably be down the line at some point. But like I said, it was a mismatch, but it was entertaining enough for me, to not mind it. Yeah. And then our main event, it was Juan Manuel Marquez versus Timothy Bradley. Now, there were a couple questions in this bout, leading up to this bout. Basically, because of and basically, it would be to me, it was just like two scenarios. For Juan Manuel Marquez, it's either could he find the punch to actually see what type of punch resistance that Timothy Bradley had and possibly KO him, or with Timothy Bradley being the younger man, we'll be able to outwork him to a 12-round decision. Those were the two scenarios I was seeing. The reason why two scenarios is because the previous fights, both of them fought fights where Marquez, was coming off the fight of the year for 2012 against Pacquiao, which was a brutal fight that ended, also a KO of the year, type scenario. And you have Bradley, who was damaged in that Provodnikov fight, which is my leading candidate for fight of the year for this year. And when you hear him admit that he was slurring his speech for 2 months after that fight, you're thinking to yourself that fight must have taken something out of him. So I'm thinking that at least Marquez had a chance of actually catching him and maybe knocking him out. Well, that did not happen. Bradley put in work. It was pretty much I think I gave Marquez maybe 3 rounds at the most. But Bradley, and I'm not a big Tim Bradley fan. I've never been a big Tim Bradley fan, but he did his thing. He boxed in and out. He staggered him with right hands. A right hand I never thought Bradley even had. Well, no, I'm wrong because Bradley had an overhand right. I think that's what but he was hitting him with straight rights and on left hooks. Wobble. I think he wobbled Marquez a couple of times in the belt. I think like in the 5th round and then the last round. He was boxing beautifully. Marquez, just as the fight went on, just got slower and slower and slower. And he basically there's nothing he could do about it. He was just he couldn't catch him. Like he'd catch Bradley with a couple shots, but Bradley was shaking them off. So like I said, the fight. So the fight went the other. The scenario with Bradley, outworking Marquez. Now, however, when that decision came and they didn't say anything, they started saying the name first, and I'm like, They gotta do a split decision, really, for this fight. So the right person did win. Thank goodness for that. Whoever gave Marquez, the one that actually gave the fight to Marquez, the one who actually gave him 7 rounds, I think, to that fight, should probably be investigated, along with someone who actually, along with the old girl judge that gave that saw Floyd Canelo as a draw. Because the fight was competitive enough, but it wasn't close. Bradley pulled away from it, pulled away with the win. It was clear, so it wasn't no split decision. It wasn't like a Providence fight, or it wasn't like the Pacquiao fight. Both fights where it was, where you could say that, well, Pacquiao fight he did lose, but the Providence fight was close enough to the, where you say that, he got the nod, but he could have easily lost that. But what I was disappointed more, not Bradley. Bradley did what he had to do, and I found it entertaining. Which, like I said, it's not a rarity. That's a rarity. The biggest disappointment, in fact, was Juan Manuel Marquez. He threw a temper tantrum. We was talking about he got robbed. That was not a robbery. He got robbed in 6 fights. Marquez. I know he's 40 years old, and I know he's been around. He's been in his ring for a long period of time. But he was not robbed in this fight. The fact that someone saw the split decision, he nearly got a gift and a title he didn't really win. It was just disappointing to see him just throw him a temper tantrum and saying that, oh, they got jobbed, oh, they got robbed, and I know he's a proud man, but he got whooped. Plain and simple, he got outworked. He didn't have anything. He was slow. His legs were slow. He didn't have anything. And Bradley, I know he was probably hoping that Bradley would brawl, but he didn't. And that's what happened. So yeah, I thought that was disappointing to see Marquez act that way, and really in bad form for someone for being the type of fighter that he is. As for Bradley, like I said, it was a good fight, and my hat's off to him. So now it's basically, where does he go from there? I've heard rumors that this is probably his last fight at Top Rank, which if it was, then he should probably be, well, a Bradley Floyd fight honestly does not appeal. It's probably a possibility since he probably is. I'll say he's the number 2 welter behind Floyd. So with the other champions, with Broner and Devin Alexander, but he's definitely the solid number 2 welter at 147, barring what Pacquiao does. If that's his last fight at Top Rank, then I should probably think he should probably at least go after a Floyd fight at least. They're gonna have to probably stack the card to make it interesting due to the styles, and I know Bradley would not be able to really hurt Floyd, but it's either that or I guess he's feast on. There are others out there, Matisse, or not really Matisse because he's still at 140. Maybe Garcia, Josecito Lopez. There's a whole bunch of welters out there for him. So yeah, well, that's about it. I know HBO is going through a long stretch of fights. I know Showtime just announced some blockbuster fights, and I know next week is Ruslan making coming back from his fight with Bradley against Mike Alvarado, and that one I'm expecting a barn burner, fight of the year candidate. So until next week, all right, peace.